Hello, cruel world. My name is Dr Sohom. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist. I assess mentally disordered offenders for a living so that you don't have to. You can call me the ominous Sohominous. So I've got a question for you. Is ADHD really a romantic relationship wrecker? So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can be a challenging condition to manage for people that have it, but when it comes to relationships, it can truly wreak havoc. So this video outlines 5 ways that ADHD can hinder romantic relationships. And there's a little bonus. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the dangers of misdiagnosing ADHD. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. Part 1 was about the secret hidden signs of ninja ADHD. I told you the definition of this disorder with individual symptoms. I'm not going to list the symptoms here again for the video because I don't want to repeat myself, but when it's relevant to what I'm talking about in terms of relationships, then I will describe them. But to summarize ADHD, it's basically like herding cats when those cats are your thoughts. Okay, enough foreplay, Jorge. Let's get into the music. Cue the intro. Number 1 method of ADHD damaging a romantic relationship is the annoying, always late, awkward antics. So ADHDers are notorious for being chronically late. So imagine you're planning a romantic dinner at a fancy restaurant for your anniversary, bearing in mind that your boyfriend took you to Nando's the previous year, only to have your partner show up an hour late. He's still buttoning his shirt and he's apologizing profusely. He's still got some wax on his lips and some toothpaste in his hair. And he didn't even have time to spray himself with Lynx Africa, so there'll be no special cuddles tonight. So ADHD includes inattentiveness. So having a short attention span and being easily distracted means that you might be unable to stick to tasks, particularly that you find them tedious or time consuming. So people with ADHD might struggle to prioritize tasks, to meet deadlines, or to make appointments such as dates in fancy restaurants. So what's the problem with this? It can lead to feelings of frustration and resentment from their partners. It can also affect their ability to be like that reliable and dependable individual, which is necessary for a healthy partnership. It's basically trying to synchronize 2 different clocks that are running on different time zones. Okay, number 2 way that ADHD can damage a romantic relationship is the hideous, hyperfocused, horrid hijinks. So ADHDers can get hyperfocused on a particular task or interest, but the problem is it is at the exclusion of everything else, and this can lead to challenging situations in relationship. For example, you're driving down to Scunthorpe for a family picnic, your girlfriend's in the front seat, and you want to discuss your futures together. Perhaps you could even start talking about moving in together next year. Maybe you're even considering a pre-engagement commitment ring, and you can see her squirming with excitement from the corner of your eye, and you look across to see that she's just scored over 500 points on Crossy Roads on her phone. You get upset because you feel like your declarations of love have been poo-pooed, although you have to admit that is a pretty impressive score. So ADHD involves being unable to concentrate on tasks, but conversely, it also involves being hyper-focused on a particular task. And this happens accidentally and being oblivious to your surroundings. So this can contribute to communication breakdowns, obviously. So difficulty staying focused can lead to not just miscommunications, but misunderstanding. So it can also lead to feelings of the partner being neglected or unimportant, so they may feel that they're being frequently overlooked due to the partner's inability to stay focused. And frequent lapses in attention can be frustrating for the partner, leading to some resentment and ultimately some tension. Okay, number 3 method that ADHD can damage a relationship is the incredibly embarrassing, inept, impulsive incidents. So having ADHD makes it difficult to control impulses, and this can sometimes lead to embarrassing situation scenarios in relationships. For example, you sent your partner on an errand for him to buy some scented candles from John Lewis. Actually, looking at you, let's change that. Let's say you've sent him to Argos, and your partner suddenly decides to buy a hamster ball, and then he realizes afterwards that he doesn't have enough money in account to get the candles. So he comes home slightly embarrassed and you unleash verbal hell on him. You are really, really annoyed. Besides, you guys don't even have a hamster. Another example, you're at a Darren Brown show. It's pretty good so far. Darren asks for a couple to volunteer to be hypnotized. The last syllable barely leaves his mouth when your partner shoots her hand up and she screams, Long story short, not only were you mortally embarrassed at the time on stage because you ripped the back of your jeans sitting down at the beginning of the show, but 4 months later, you start clucking like a chicken every time you hear a fire alarm. So what am I talking about? ADHD includes impulsivity, which is acting without thinking and not considering the consequences of your actions. Not so much a big deal if it only affects you, but possibly a bigger deal if it affects you and your partner as well. Okay, number 4 way that ADHD can damage a romantic relationship is the extremely erratic emotional eruptions. Before I get into that, I just want to introduce you formally to this channel. Welcome. It's a schmack for small minds. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist. I work as an expert witness. I give evidence in criminal trials, etc., etc. So my expertise and my videos are about mental illness and about offending, crime, criminality, and the crossover betwixt the two. So I implore you to check out my other videos. So I've got some about myths about depression, myths about toxic masculinity, debunked. I've got some stuff about autism, hidden subtle signs, and also how that can damage a relationship. I implore you to subscribe, because not only does it help me out immeasurably, but if you subscribe, it will cure your gout. You can stop hobbling along like an old woman with scurvy. The kids in your street will stop taking the wee out of you. Right, back to this episode. Number 4 way that ADHD can damage a relationship: extremely erratic emotional eruptions. ADHD can make it difficult to regulate emotions, leading to sudden mood swings and outbursts. So 1 minute your partner's laughing hysterically and the next they're sulking in a corner. So that makes it difficult to maintain stable and consistent emotions. This can lead to feelings of insecurity and uncertainty in their partners. And this can be exhausting and confusing for anybody in a relationship. So specifically in terms of the symptom category, I'm talking about emotional impulsivity and distractibility. And impatience is another connected, it's not exactly the same thing, but there's a big overlap, connected characteristic of ADHD that can strain relationships. Individuals with ADHD might become easily frustrated or annoyed. That can lead to outbursts, it can lead to arguments, it can create tension and uncomfortable atmosphere. So that makes it difficult to maintain a positive connection, and the partner might feel like it's their fault. They might feel either that they're to blame or the converse, or that they feel that they're being specifically bullied or targeted, not realizing that the ADHD sufferer literally can't contain their emotions and outbursts. It's not that they're choosing to do it, they're emotionally, cognitively, physically not able to. Okay, almost there. You can do it. Get you back into it. The 5th and final way that ADHD can damage a romantic relationship is the frightfully frustrating forgetful fails. So ADHDers can be notoriously forgetful. You and your partner are going to your niece's 6th birthday party. He was supposed to pick up the Moana 2 themed cake from the bakery, which cost you 30 quid, by the way. You told him last night, you even texted him this morning, but he spent the entire day playing Street Fighter 2. He forgot the cake, and the best that he could do at the last minute was pick up a box of donuts from Londis around the corner. Now, you don't know how you're going to feed 30 kids with 12 donuts, but what you do know is that Street Fighter 2 cartridge is getting thrown out the window tonight. So people with ADHD have a poor working memory. They have trouble holding down information in their minds. They have difficulty staying focused. ADHD makes it hard to concentrate on tasks, leading to distraction and lapses in attention. And also, on top of that, it might mean that the sufferer gets overwhelmed with amounts of data, meaning that it's difficult for them to process and retain information, which is basically forgetfulness. Okay, so a quick question for you, my Psych for Sore guys and gals. Do any of these traits seem familiar to you or your partner? Do you know what I'm talking about? Are you about that life? Let me know how this has affected your functioning, specifically your relationships, how you've dealt with it. Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, and before we finish, I'm just going to give you a little bonus, another topic. I want to talk about the dangers of misdiagnosing ADHD. So it can have serious consequences, and here are some of the potential dangers. So the first thing is incorrect treatment. So being treated for a condition that you don't have can lead to unnecessary medication or therapy or even other interventions. So there can be harmful side effects and negative impact on your overall well-being. I know what you're thinking, stop talking generically, put your money where your nose is. So one of the medications for ADHD is actually stimulants, like amphetamines, and that can help the sufferer focus. But if you don't actually need it because you're misdiagnosed, then it can have nasty side effects like insomnia, not being able to sleep for days, and actually stunting your growth. So that's what happens with wrong medication. Unnecessary therapy won't physically harm you unless you stub your toe on the therapist's office door, but it could waste your time and your money. Another danger is that if you don't have ADHD, but you have something else that mimics some of the symptoms, then you could be misdiagnosed. You might have something like an anxiety disorder. So symptoms like restlessness, difficulty concentration can mislead the clinician to misdiagnose you with ADHD incorrectly. So there's a risk if that happens, there's a risk that the underlying issue is not addressed, and the underlying issue, say for example anxiety, can worsen over time. So that in itself can lead to academic, social, and occupational difficulties. But what about the opposite? What about if you do have ADHD, but the diagnosis is missed or delayed? So the individual may miss out on appropriate interventions and support, such as extra time at school, and it could significantly have improved their lives. I just want to add a quick positive spin at the end of this episode now that we've talked about that topic, which is that ADHD isn't necessarily an automatic death sentence to your romantic relationship. It's important to note that all individuals with ADHD will experience these challenges in different ways. Some might be able to manage their symptoms effectively. I talked about some of the treatment before, medication, etc. Others might face more significant difficulties. However, understanding, I think, is the key. Understanding the potential impact of ADHD on relationships, talking to each other about it, means that your partner and you can kind of come up to some sort of compromise or understanding, develop strategies for coping, and build stronger social connections. Right, to finish off, I just want to recap what we've learned today, kids. Remember, I make these videos because I want to be educational, but also because I want to take over the world. It's going terribly. So this is what we've learned. ADHDers are notorious for being chronically late, having a short attention span and being easily distracted. They're also unable to stick to tasks that are tedious or time consuming. They might struggle to prioritize tasks to meet deadlines or make appointments or dates in fancy restaurants. This can lead to feelings of frustration and resentment from their partner. We learned that your girlfriend got 500 points on Crossy Roads on her phone. We learned that ADHDers can be hyper-focused on one particular task or interest to the exclusion and to the detriment of everything else. This can lead to some challenging behaviours in relationships, such as communication breakdowns. Difficulty staying focused can lead to misunderstanding and miscommunications. We learned that you have a broken plastic hamster ball at home but no scented candles. We learned that ADHD can make it difficult to regulate emotions, leading to sudden mood swings and outbursts, making it difficult to maintain stable and consistent emotions. So this in turn can lead to feelings of insecurity and uncertainty in partners. This can be exhausting, a bit like this sentence, and confusing for anybody in a relationship. Okay, so as I said before, this is part 2 of a 2-part series. Check out part 1 if you want to know about the hidden subtle signs of ADHD. I'm not talking about the stuff that's in the textbooks. I'm talking about my insights into when it is kind of under the radar, things that might tell you that you have ADHD. Perhaps you need further assessment. And that video also talks about the overt symptoms as well. Okay, before we finish, let me know if there's any other topics you want me to cover, whether it's about mental health, mental illness, criminality, violence, etc., and I will try my best to make a video. That's it from me. Have a blessed day. Buy my goddamn book, and do not forget, I love you.